Welcome to Lessons from History, where we try to find something to take away from the various historical events that we've been trying to remember. Not just a date, but a lesson we can apply to us today. Now, today's event is the founding of the Roman Republic. Now, can you remember the date? That's right, 509 BCE. Well done. The mnemonic device was Brutus, not the one you're thinking of, throwing on slick shades in the shape of our date. Now, maybe to ingrain this in your mind a bit more, you could also imagine this sound happening at the same time, taking a hint from Horatio on CSI there. Now, I'll leave this mnemonic device up here or here, depending on where you're watching this. So, what can we learn from this event? Well, one lesson we could take away is this. Hereditary monarchs are definitely bad. Now, Rome's king situation wasn't necessarily bad for the time. It was kind of a first attempt at a sort of democratic monarchy. Now, when the king died, what was supposed to happen was that the son didn't take over, and it was almost always was sons in those days, and instead a select few Romans, usually the richest, would then vote for the next king, and they would be invested with what was called imperium, the powers of the king. Now, Romulus was the first king, then it was his brother-in-law, so not a blood relative, and then a man called Titus Hostilius became king, again, no relation to the previous. The next king, Anicius Marcius, who was also elected, was the son-in-law of Titus, again, not a blood relative, so we're still staying on course, I think. And then we start to go off the rails, or off the Roman roads, because that was, after that king, Lucius Tarquinius Priscus became, at first, a regent until Marcius' sons came of age. So already the hereditary nature of kings was sort of happening. They were sort of expecting that the sons would take over. But then, that was when Priscus just decided to get himself elected king. Then Servius Tullius became king, and he seized the kingship when the sons of Marcius tried to assassinate Priscus, who had essentially taken their role as king away from them. And while he recovered, that's when Tullius moved in. After him came Lucius Tarquinius Superbus, who was the son or grandson of Priscus, so it's that hereditary thing has kind of happened. And he planned to put his son in charge next, and that son triggered the series of events that founded the Republic. Now, if you look at the history here, you realise something. After all these kings who were elected, it would have been extremely weird to switch to the hereditary model, because the hereditary monarch would then own the concept of imperium. All that power, all that Rome was, would be owned. It doesn't make sense, does it? Think about how kings today, and queens, and so on and so forth, get ownership of a country. And it happens when their family did nothing to deserve it. They don't deserve this position, they just sort of merely took it. It's ridiculous. And the kings of Rome were given their power. It was never supposed to transition to their family, to an heir. It just wasn't supposed to happen. And it's kind of a lesson we should take away, because when this started to happen, that's why Rome kicked off, and Brutus, not the one you're thinking of, started the Roman Republic. And power was diluted between two people. Rome learned that lesson until the emperors came around, but that's another story. 509 BCE. No hereditary monarchs. Ever. That's the lesson. Thanks for watching.